away.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right,
Okay.
once again, everyone, I want to welcome you onto the concluding part of the module on volunteer management, and our facilitator is in house already. So please take notes of your questions and comments. You can write those down, and when the time is up, she will let us know, and then we can take the questions and answers. So once again, I want to welcome you, Glory, and I appreciate you for your job well done. And I'm sure today's class will be as interesting and fascinating as the three previous classes. So welcome and good morning once again.
Good morning. Thank you so much for that. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with you again. I am actually joining with my phone, so I have some issues with my system. I'm not able to log on the call with my laptop. But whilst we are trying to get started, thank you all for the very nice feedbacks from the previous classes. I also would like to really ask, I'd like to really ask the people online, those who can type in the chat box, to tell me what they have taken in so far. Don't tell me a random statement like, I have learned how to arrange volunteers for my program, or a statement like, I have learned how to organize my volunteer programs. Like some people have actually sent that in. That's really good, but that's the entire topic of the event. That is not a takeaway. So what have you taken away from this meeting? What is the very thing that you have learned from this meeting? I'd like you to type on the chat box the volunteer training whilst I'm trying to get my system up in the next 2 minutes. So on the chat box, what have you learned? Have you learned how to measure your impact? And make sure you don't say what I say, yo. I like you guys to come up with your words, right? Have you learned how to measure your impact? Have you learned how to identify specific ways to identify problems, specific ways to design the solutions, specific things to tell, specific ways to measure your progress, like the evaluation. I like you guys to type it. I actually made an example with some of your initiatives. So I like that feedback now on the chat box. What have you learned so far? What is that specific thing you learned? And like I said, not just you learned how to organize your volunteer training. Okay, let's go. I'm all ears. Feel free to open up your mics and talk, or feel free to also type it on the chat box. You can unmute yourself and share this thing. Okay, so I am trying to use my laptop to join this meeting. It's not working, so we'll have to use my phone. With that, I'd like to please ask for the help of the admin to actually help me to share the presentation. Yeah, someone said on the chat box, I've learned how to work properly with volunteers. What specifically, how? What's the thing you learned to work with them on? What do you mean by properly? Yeah, so guys, specific, okay? Specific things you take away. Please, admin, can you help me to share this, to share my slide? Thank you.
Just a minute, please.
Thank you, sir. Some people actually reached out to me privately on social media. Those nice things you said there, I want you to share that here. Other people can learn from it. Someone's Oshobo window. You want to talk? Yes, please.
Good morning, ma. Thanks so much for your teaching. Well, what I actually took home was managing conflicts. Managing conflicts. I deal with elderly. I deal with elderly. Those ones that they cannot get a living. They are above 70, they can't work any longer. So I have donors who will give me either foodstuffs or money to share among them. But at the same time, I have to get volunteers. And at the long run, I discovered that the volunteers want to subchange those elders. They want to take out of what we are supposed to give them. So in the process, there's always a conflict of interest. What I took on was respecting dialogue. Because some of them, when you tell them, why you do this in front of everybody, they're like, why should you be embarrassing me in front of people? So when I go home, I have to strategize how I'm going to deal with my volunteers by talking to them respectfully, with respect and with a lot of insights what we're doing. So I discovered that there's no how you bring in people and you not have conflict of interest. You know, I know how the economy is now in Nigeria. Everybody wants to fight for their stomach. You know, these people that I'm using, they also have other side hustles, but they will still want to take from what we are giving to the elders. These elders, they can't earn a living. Some of them don't. There's a particular woman she does not have children. She has never been married before, and she only depends on what we deliver to her. So sometimes we have to look inward very how we deal with our volunteers, because some of them they have this greed intents. They are greedy inside, but only when you engage them, that's when you know that this is how they are inside. And so my take home is to figure out strategies to talk with them when there is a conflict, when they are fighting among themselves. Sometimes we have remains. They might be, what we have might be more than what the people on ground. So they want us to share it among the volunteers. And sometimes I wouldn't want that, but with wisdom, we just, okay, take it. And in the process of asking them to take it, there will be conflict at the same time. And so what I took home is respectful dialogue, calling them separate. So thank you so much, ma.
Hello, ma. Another person.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yes. My own take home is that this workshop has really enabled me to know how to develop evaluation mechanism needed to get valuable feedback from volunteers and beneficiaries of community-oriented programs. Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, come again, please. You said the workshop did what?
I said this workshop has helped me to know how to develop evaluation mechanism needed to get valuable feedback from volunteers and beneficiaries of community-oriented programs or projects.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Any other person want to talk? Today is our last day, guys. I want us to make it memorable. I need to be able to fine-tune your feedback. I want to be able to fine-tune what you have learned and make sure that you have gotten something from it. Any other person want to talk? Sheung Taiwo, yes.
Good morning.
Good
Okay,
morning.
thank you. From the session, I've been able to understand how to better manage my volunteers. I understand the essence of engaging everyone on a particular task, like giving them a particular function that they have deliverables on. And also when we go on our activities outside in communities, having set deliverables expectations that you have ahead of that will help you to be able to evaluate the success or otherwise of the intervention you're taking at the community level. So those two take-homes are key for me. Thank you very much for the insight shared, ma'am.
I really like that. Thank you so much for that. Developing key evaluation metrics and setting their expectations. Thank you for that, because I know that I mentioned the importance of describing what you want your volunteers to do, because we all make that mistake of just bringing volunteers in and saying, you come and do this, you come and do that, you just come and help out with the food, you help out with taking attendance. And at the end of the day, when we make all of these random types of assignment, when we assign randomly, we're not really able to measure anything. We have not drafted any notes. We have not, right, we have not done things properly, and that way we're not able to track. Okay, thanks. There's someone, sorry, I'm trying to look to see whose hands are raised up. Oka Winter, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, ma. Good morning, ma.
Good morning.
What I learned from the previous classes is firstly, in volunteer management, the external evaluations can also be as important as the internal evaluations. It serves as a good comparison point in order to get a balanced requirements for what you need. And secondly, I also learned that in volunteer employments, that some unique programs can actually lead to permanent employment of the volunteers or the volunteer workers. It's also a means of fundraising for the society and for those who are unemployed.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other person want to say something?
Good morning. I want to thank you very much for this class. Let me just use my own word. It has been a jolly good word. So what I learned was that in trying to define your goal or objective as an organization, now you must work with people in the community. You don't just wake up one morning and decide to embark on a particular project. Now you gave us examples, they're using your own organization. That if you embark on a project without getting the community involved, they might wake up one morning and decide that they don't want what you are doing, and they might decide to destroy it. So you must get them actively involved. At least they should form part of what you are doing, like you told us. It will help you along. It will help a long way to make sure that your goal will be achieved. And also, when you are getting your team, that is your volunteer management teams, you must be on the lookout for incentives, what will benefit them. And maybe you don't have cash now to pay them, but you must, at the long run, look out for programs that they will benefit in the future. You gave us examples of how so many of them want grants, and they can't just be working for you and not be working like that. As you are thinking of growing your organization, you should also think of a way to impact positively in the lives of the people that you work in as your volunteers. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I would also ask some of you the same question at the end of the class. So please, if you have some feedback to share, please get it ready for the end. Mr. Samuel, please, I'll be able to share my screen now. Thank you so much for your help. Thank you. Okay, I am not able to share because I am not enabled.
Just a minute. I think I need to, okay, just a minute.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, thanks. All right. So whilst I'm trying to share my screen, thank you, ladies, thank you, gentlemen, for all of your feedback. I'm very happy from what some of you have said, that you indeed have taken something out away from this session, and it's not just something generic or something very general or vague. So that's really good. So it has been very benefiting. And moving on. Okay. Yes, there you go. So we have the last two topics to talk about. Not really topics, they are continuation from the last session. Remember, in the last session, we talked about how to make evaluate your project. And we talked about three important processes, three important metrics: process, results, and impact. Process, results, and impact of project. So we'll just pick it up from where we stopped. We talked about the role of the volunteer manager. We talked about the steps that the volunteer manager can take to properly evaluate the project. Then we also talked about, okay, this is where we're going to pick up from today. Yeah. So from today, we're going to talk about continuous feedback. So even after you have made impact, right? Even after you've measured your impact, you have checked and seen your results, you have done all these things, you need to do what is called continuous feedback. Now, guys, I'd like to challenge you today. For some of you here who are planning any volunteer-led programs, and I'm sure that on the first day, I explained the meaning of volunteer-led programs. A program that you're organizing where you intend to use volunteers to execute the program, right? So I want to challenge some of you to actually implement everything that we have shared in this program for that your volunteer engagement that you're planning. I promise you the result you're going to get, if you do this thing the way it is. If you don't just take this as an ordinary training because it was free, you know, it's not the US government, so they can we will just take the course and that's just it. It's not free. Don't take it lightly. Not just the volunteer management program, but other programs that you're doing. Try and implement them. If you implement this one that I taught in this last couple of days, I promise you, you will have good results to show for it. And that result might even fetch you an award. I'm not saying it will, but if you do things with care, with precision, with specificity, like we have shared here, there's no need complaining about how Nigeria is, because you'll be able to produce excellence. You'll be able to produce an excellent result. So, you know, in local Nigerian dialect, we used to say, I double dare you. I double dare you to do it. I wish you can share feedback with me. Share feedback with me on social media or on WhatsApp or anywhere that's or via email. Please tell me what you have done, specifically about what we have shared. Not to ask me about how you do it or to ask me anything, but just implement what has been shared here. Make sure you watch the recordings again so that you can remember what has been talked about, so that you can remember some of the things that jumped out at you. You know how you'll be listening to something and there's something just jump out at you. Something will just jump to you, something that is just, you haven't thought of it that way before. So those things that jumped out, take note of them and try to implement it. Please take note of the result or the direct impact of that thing that you implemented and see if there's a difference in what has happened. So that's a challenge. And I hope that you guys will meet me, you know, you guys will do it and let me know how it goes. So continuous feedback. What this means is simple. You have to keep checking what has happened with your project, with your beneficiaries. You have to find out what has happened after a while, find out what has changed. Before we go on to what we have, I want to share with you what happened in my projects. Remember the cassava processing factory that I built for widows as a volunteer, right? As a volunteer youth corporate. And you know that the NYC thing in the NYC scheme in the first instance is actually a volunteer initiative. Did you guys know? So that way, from the perspective of our program, our learning program that we're talking about here, you can think about the NYSC initiative as a volunteer-led program of the Nigerian government, right? Of course, they have staff that they pay, funded by the Nigerian government, but it's not a for-profit initiative, right? So they recruit Nigerians as volunteers because some of those that are serving are not getting paid, right? So that's why we actually, okay, come to think of it, guys, that's why we actually call it youth service, isn't it? We use the term service for it. So it's because it's a volunteer type of activity. So I wanted to make that, to just draw out that, because I needed you guys to think about the project I'm talking about as a volunteer-led program in the first place, from the angle of the Nigerian government, looking at it like that. And after this training, another thing I want you guys to be able to do is to just be able to randomly recognize projects that are volunteer-led. I want you to identify skills that you're getting from this course, right? Like I told you guys in the beginning from the first day, I really like to do a class and the people there actually take things home that they can implement and get results. If you don't get any results, it's possible you haven't implemented it properly. So whilst we're talking today, I want you to write down some skills you think you have taken away from this is different from the lesson. What are other skills? How to properly evaluate skills, how to immediately identify volunteer-led program skills, leadership skills as it relates to program management, leadership skills as it relates to volunteer management. It's important to take note of skills like this. Do you know why? Because in the future, you can come across initiatives or opportunities where they ask you of skills. Let me tell you guys why it's important. I reviewed some people's Mandela Washington Fellowship application, and there was a question. And the reason I'm going to share this question with you is because it relates to what I want to say now. There's a question that asks, and I'd like to know if there are people here who applied for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. Hands up. You can tell, you can hands up or say it on the chat box, so that if you did, you would see this question I'm talking about. There was a question that asked, good, thank you for your hands up. There were questions that asked about what skills do you hope to acquire by participating in the Mandela Washington Fellowship? A lot of people I reviewed their applications that I know have really good skills, they not write the skills that they have. They instead try to write generic answers that are random. Just like, sadly, some people sent me answers that were just a little bit vague, like saying, I learned volunteer management. Of course, but that's the name of the course. Specificity, very important. They said random skills. I realized that they did not know that they have those skills, or they did not understand the question. That's why I'm saying from this project, from the entire program you're all going to be doing, from the beginning to the end, apart from the volunteer management, make sure you take note of skills that you can take away from it by the time you implement the activity, not just by the time you learn about it or by the time you implement, because it can enable you to answer questions properly in the future, or if you're granting an interview, or if you are trying to talk on TV or somewhere, you will be able to find words. You'll be able to immediately find words and think about skills that you know. Right, so from this entire volunteer management training that you guys have done here today, the thing you have learned is not just volunteer management skills. There are about 10 different things you can learn from here. So moving on to my example, and I want to create a background. We're talking about a person was asked, what skills will this fellowship program give to you that you don't already know? That question has to do with skills that can be gotten just from that program, right? Just by attending that program, what are the skills you can pick up? It's like saying, what skills have you picked up from attending the volunteer management training? And then someone said, oh, I've picked up how to organize a program management, how to organize a volunteer program management. I hope you know that's not an answer. But if you look at it and if you implement some of things I have taught, you can pick up proper evaluation skills. You can pick up volunteer management leadership skills, or you can, someone said a very interesting answer, you can pick up how to set up, how to create job expectations skills. See guys, those are skills. These are things that people learn in business schools, in public relations, how to do PR, right? So that's just a little tip I want to share. I hope it's helpful. I'm saying the summary of what I just said, write out some skills that you can pick up from this, so that when you implement a project using all of these metrics, you can actually pick those skills up and you can have it on your journal of skills that you have, right? So that when you fill your CV, you don't just say all those random things that people usually say. I'm sure you know that when people write their CVs, they write all these general things that they also took from the internet, right? So that when you write your CV, you will input skills that are true, right? You will input skills that are true. So that's it. I'm talking about continuous feedback. I cannot remember how we went to talking about skills, but continuous feedback. From there, I went to NYC story. I talked about my NYC project. After my project, the cassava processing factory that I built at that community as a copper, after 6 months to 1 year, after 1 year, right, I did reach out to those community members to try and learn an update, right? Let me tell you guys what I did. There was an initial plan that we made. The women told me that they will use money from the factory to buy things for themselves on Christmas, Salah, and all these other celebrative periods. So by default, they were actually going to contact me in one of those days to tell me how that has gone, right? So naturally, they did. That was, I left that place in February of that 2014. In December 2014 was when they called me. I was shocked at the amount of money they had made in about 8 to 10 months, right? So they told me that they gave me an update of what has happened. And then they showed me videos of the bags of rice that they bought, the food stuff, and all of these things they bought. You know, just from running the factory for about 10 months, lots of money. They told me that they have started a microfinance initiative where they're lending money to the other widows that are there to use for other small petty trades, right? Or to use for other petty trades to get money from and send children to school, or to use the money for something else, but they will pay back, right? Now, that was an interesting favor that I got 10 months after. This was after taking my initial impact feedback 6 months after, right? So don't relent after you have observed what happened 6 months later. You have to find out what has happened after about a year. You have to keep reaching out to find out. Now, after about 1 year, when I reached out to find out, guys, let me tell you something interesting that happened. Something a bit surprising that happened on that project. After about 1 year, I reached out. No, it was more than 1 year. I think it was after about 2 years or so, when I reached out again to know what's going on, I got a surprise. I found that the women were no longer working at the factory. Wow, what happened? I mean, this factory was making a lot of money for them. So nobody told me anything. I just told, okay, I think I told a copper to go to that factory and check, a copper who was working there, to go to that factory and check. Oh yeah, sorry guys, I remembered what happened. I actually traveled there by myself. I have something to do in the States. So I traveled there out in surprise. I didn't even tell anyone anything else. So I just went to the factory directly, and I met a surprise. It was empty. And I saw that it hasn't been working for a while, maybe the last 2-3 months. And I asked a neighbor there. They said, oh, in the last 2-3 months, nothing has been going on. Wow. I went to the Oba's palace directly, and I established my complaint. The Oba told me that the women came to him about that 2 months ago to complain that one of their equipment was not working, and that it was one of the expensive ones that was not working. Yeah, it stopped working and it damaged. They found people to fix it, but they couldn't fix it. It was not fixable, right? So they needed money. They needed a lot of money to get it done. The money that they had from the factory, they've spent it trying to fix it with that first person who couldn't work on it. So now they need more help. They need more support. And I was wondering, what if I had not checked or asked? So this hard work of mine would just be like this. And so that's the importance of continuous feedback. If you don't ask, you will not know. If you just assume that things are going well, you will not know what has happened. Let me tell you the importance of that, right? There are opportunities you will come across later in life where you will apply for that opportunity with that project that you did, right? So that volunteer-led program that you did, you will talk, if you do it so well, you will definitely talk about it in the future. Let me tell you, if they are anything like the American government or like the Mandela Washington Fellowship, they will go and check that. That's just a secret I'm telling you guys. Let me just tell you that. Let me tell you that for free, that they check the thing you said you have done. They don't just check on it. They don't check on it online. They don't just check on it on Google. So guys, I want you to take note that they actually go and try and verify the physical thing you said you did. If it was not physical, if it was a training, they go and ask the school, if so and so time, a couple like this did something like this. So if you have lied in the thing that you wrote, or if you haven't told the complete truth, they'll usually verify. Maybe they might not get 100% accuracy, but they'll get a little bit and they'll make up their mind. So if you have not taken any continuous feedback from your project, it can affect your future opportunities. Right, because you don't know what has happened. So what if I apply for opportunities and those people go to the factory to check, because I wrote the name of the community, I wrote the address of the factory, and they go there to check, they'll see that nothing is there. Maybe they will even see, if it's been left for so long, they'll see that grasses have grown there. What do you think they will think about your project? They will think that your project is quite good. We can see physically that you did that, but it did not make the impact that you said it made. And they did not know that for about 2 years, it has really made that impact. But what they saw there is something different. Do you realize the importance of collecting continuous feedback now? I have tried to link it to how it can affect future opportunities, not just the then, right? So you have to continually keep tabs, right? With the communities that you have worked in, with the beneficiaries that you have worked for. I hope that is clear. So let me read out the first thing here. You have to do periodic evaluation, right, of each. Okay, this one's talking about the volunteers, good. But the example I gave is talking about the project itself. So you have to do a periodic evaluation of volunteers' performances. Remember that this one is picking up from the last one. Let me show you a reminder. This one picks up from the last one, the role of volunteers, of the volunteer manager. So yeah, you have to, okay. Periodic evaluation of your volunteers' performance is very important, right? Because as you continue to run projects, you have to keep checking how your volunteers are performing, what they're doing, and how you can help them. Let me give you an example of a volunteer that works with me. He came in as a graphic manager, right? And he's good. The guy is really good. He's one of the best graphic people that I've worked with. And why I said he's really good is because his designs are just really top notch. I've not even seen his design. I've not seen such precision in design with people that I have paid to design the graphics. So the guy came on board for one of our programs that was going to last for 6 months. So the person who introduced him said that he's going to volunteer on the program because he thinks it's a way to give back, but that he's going to collect at least a little money at the end. So the money, let me just tell you guys, is 40,000 Naira is what we paid him after 6 months. But of course, that does not even begin to get close to the amount of work he did. But that was just like a stipend to say thank you. We didn't pay other volunteers, but we gave to him because he was going to do something tangible in the project. Anyway, this guy is good, but he is not reliable. Unfortunately, he was not reliable at all. And some of you here who work with volunteers or work with people or lead organizations, you will understand the importance of having a person on your team that is reliable, right? Having a person on your team that is reliable. So he was not reliable because he will be on the team and I will call and call and call, send texts many times. I would do many things to try and get his attention. I would even ask one of my team members, who is male, because at the point I was thinking, is it because I'm not exercising force? Maybe he will listen to a man more. Those are the things that I thought about when that guy was really not meeting up with his goals. So I asked a team member who is also male to talk to him. Those were all the things that I tried to get back this volunteer on track. I'm trying to point out that sometimes you can have volunteers that are not meeting expectations. And I also think somebody asked that question during our last section. So when you have these kinds of volunteers, you have to figure out how to reach out to them. So even after I told another team member to reach out, he was a little bit, he didn't try to meet up, but then he continued again. So I thought to myself, is it because this guy is very talented? Maybe he's in high demand and he has other people. And we had multiple programs to come. The next one that was going to come, we were actually going to pay him. And I'd like you to think about instances where you've had problems like this. I'm going to ask some of you to share if you've had a troublesome volunteer in the past and how did you handle it? How did you deal with it? I'm going to ask that soon. So this, eventually I realized that this volunteer was not really changing. I struggled with how to let him go because he's good. I mean, his designs are really good. So I was like, are we going to find another person who's going to be this good? Those were questions I asked myself. But as a leader, you have to remember what I said about decision making. Remember what I said about decision making, how to make decisions very specifically and not beat around the bush. So as a leader, you have to make the decision to put your programs on the path of progress. So what did I do about this person? It was not changing. Everything we tried did not work. I allowed him to come. Even at that, I discussed with him at length, talked to him to try and understand what was going on. Were you busy or what? But I was not. And he's always so humble and always apologize, like he's always remorseful. Guys, take note of it, that when a person is remorseful and keep asking for opportunities and they're not really changing, you have to take the decision. That's what happened with this person. Even after being remorseful, promising to change, and I was touched because I thought, because he was not being haughty. You know, when you have a volunteer who's being haughty and, you know, not really caring about that thing you're saying, you know, if he's, yes, now I was busy, and after all, how much are you people paying me here? That was not the case here. This one was remorseful and promised to change. So I gave him another opportunity. Guys, it was the same thing. The same thing. Remember, we're talking about periodic evaluation of your volunteers. If you've observed the pattern, you should take a decision as a leader. Do not allow that experience to derail your project impact, right? So I noticed that this was a pattern. Eventually, this guy would do things very last minute. Like on the day we are graduating our fellows, we need certificates. He's supposed to do this. He would then do most of them that night. And remember, we have to make corrections. We have to make corrections. So he wouldn't leave enough time to make the correct, and it was just so frustrating. Many times on his watch for a program that was 3 months, I've had to design flyers myself. Thankfully, I can design flyers. I just don't have the time. And that's why we brought someone on the team. So we had to do most of the flyers myself. I had to, at a point, make up to 30 different flyers for our 30 fellows. We had to make individual, you know, the individual announcement flyers for 30 fellows. I had to do it with the help of another of my assistants who got their pictures and their names. When you find that you're overwhelmed, when you have a person on the team who is supposed to do that, guys, you need to watch the person. Right. And so many times I have to do the flyers. Then I'm not able, like I'm not 100% pro. So some types of advanced flyers I have to still. Guys, on the watch of this team member, I paid people to make flyers. At that point, I knew that you have to take a decision on this, guys. So after that program ended, I talked to him like a mentee. I advised him because I felt that he was a serious person in life. I mean, like he was always remorseful. So I felt at least he understood his mistakes. People who understand their mistakes can change, isn't it? That's what I thought, right? So I advised him and I told him when another opportunity came, because I couldn't find another designer that was like him, I still gave him an opportunity, thinking that when you give people a second chance, they will do better. At least that's what we were taught, isn't it? Right, so I spoke to him, like I always talk to him in a heartfelt way, and he will understand. So I told him, I said, I'll give you another chance. You have to prove to me that you will take this one. We had a long conversation and he promised that he's going to do that, right? So we brought him on the team. This was a different program. We brought him on the team and everything went well. He repeated the same exact thing. Oh my God. Guys, I realized that even if volunteers have promised to change, sometimes they may not. And so you have to stop derailing your own project, which is what I was doing. And I was still looking for people to help. So I just made a decision. We took him out of the team. I told him, I'm sorry, I won't be able to continue working with you. You can even agree with me that you have been this way. And he agreed. And he actually agreed. So very interesting. Anyway, so moving on, please get a continuous feedback. And I'd like to ask now, before I go to the other point, have you ever had that kind of experience? Any of you here who have planned programs before, where you just observed that there was a pattern, not a one-off thing like somebody shared in the last group? Who can share? Anyone want to share at all? Want to share an experience where you've had a volunteer before and you observed that there was a pattern or that these people were not serious? What did you do? I'll wait for chats on the comment board or for hands to be raised. In the meantime, I'll continue with our message. So if anyone wants to share, remember to, if you're in any of the American, good, you can raise your hands. Let me start with the person that I can see. The first person I can see on the WhatsApp, I wanted to say WhatsApp call, sorry, on my Zoom screen is Nkiruka Osaebu. Please unmute yourself and share with us what happened and how did you resolve it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Gloria. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, though it's something I'm still dealing with, but a few times I've had programs and I have these volunteers. They kind of, the way they act when we go on an outreach, though we'll have a meeting with them. Okay, we're going on a medical outreach. Let's focus on what we are there. And I find out that when I give them an opportunity to talk there, they start talking about empowerment. They start talking about something else. And if I come in to correct them, they get offended. So it was really going on and on like that. Gradually, I start withdrawing. I don't let them speak again. I just, apply wisdom and all that. And gradually they left themselves without no quarrel and all that. That was really what I wanted. I don't know if that was, I still have one person on the team. I don't know how to do away with him because I know he's been very helpful, but he's too forward. But I don't know how to deal with that. Thank you.
Interesting.
All right.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. You can think about how to correct saying things that are not related to the subject matter by actually training them. I think that's one way you can correct that. Also, a way to do it. Welcome to the club. It's very difficult to try and do away with people. It's always very hard. But if I have multiple examples of where the person has continually flouted the rules or not really doing well, it's really a little bit easier, like the guy on my team. And he himself actually accepts all of the fault. He agrees that all things I said are true. I take notes and I actually take notes of the time that they have flouted the rules, not really flouting the rules or not meeting to their assignment, and it has cost the program something. Like it cost the program something. I just say, I'm really sorry, and we cannot continue, right? And then when you have a volunteer who's really been helpful, I'll tell you guys another story, about that, how that relates to it. A volunteer who's really bringing things to the team, but he can come across as disrespectful sometimes, right? I also will tell you how to deal with that. But thanks for sharing that. So are you paying those volunteers? I don't think so. Yes. Are they free?
Not really, but I'm not paying them, but I give them tippets, I give them food sometimes when we have food outreach. So, but not much.
That I understand that. That's just what happens most of the times. So that's the way you can deal with them. If what they're doing has begun to derail your program or your assignments, you have to think very carefully about how you want to handle that. But thanks for sharing it. I think you need to train your volunteers to understand what the mission is. I asked some of you here to go and implement programs with what you've learned. I think that you should use some of the strategies we have shared to actually choose volunteers, right? The training aspect, the job expectations, right? Make very clear what the benefits are. We shared that in the beginning. So that if you cannot give money, you have made very clear the benefits of what they'll be getting: recommendations, value, free training, free work experience, free knowledge in the sector, right? Or a certificate. That way you can select just the people who are right for your project. If you select just the people who are right for your project, you can avoid problems like this. Okay, thank you so much for that. And I want to call up Oshobo Window. Oshobo Window, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Actually, when you were talking about your experience with your volunteer, I was just smiling because I have exactly the same issue with a lady, and she happens to be the person in charge of the training and manpower development of the organization. And when you give assignments and tasks like this and they don't deliver everything, the bulk of the whole work just falls back to you. and you keep on asking, okay, what is the problem? How can we help? Is it data? Is it this? Is it that? Okay, we can actually help subscribe for you, do this, do that. So you can actually help the ED solve some kind of problem while you focus on some other things. But you see her, she always, okay, I'm sorry, nothing much, I'm sorry, you know, always apologetic, and you feel, okay, let's give her a trial again. But honestly, like today, we are going to take a decision on that and find somebody else to replace her. I've already concluded on that this morning before even coming for this section, because it is repeating itself all over and over again. And like you said, decision making is one key thing for a leader to make. And secondly, I also have this other guy, graphic designer, and most times his other jobs does not really give him room to do some jobs for the organization. But we reached an agreement, and he decided to bring in some other guys that also volunteered to also use noise. Sorry, the noise is
somebody's mic is on mute. It's not on mute. Sorry, excuse me.
Sorry, Regina. Okay, I've muted that. Continue, please.
All right, thank you. So this young man also brought in another graphic designer. I said, okay, so see, this man wants to be a volunteer. And right now we have about 6 graphic designers in the organization. So even if it's not opportune to do this, the next person can actually take the task, the third person, the fourth person, and that's how we're able to solve that particular issue that have to do with graphics, other infographics works in the organization. But the other lady on, we are taking the decision today. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope you guys, the reason I asked, I want us all to learn from what has been working for others. Thank you for sharing that, Showable Window. And I'll call Benin City Window now. Tell us your experience about something like this and what did you do?
Hello, good morning, ma'am. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, I'm currently planning an event for November. So I have someone I'm working with that is supposed to be a partner, kind of. He volunteered to be, and he is a very, very important person in the organization, because I was even thinking of inducting him among my board of directors, since he's a barrister and I need someone like him. Okay, now we've been planning this event. He's supposed to help me do something in Lagos, submit some letters. I was referred to Asaba, from Zenith Bank, Asaba to Lagos. Okay, since you're there, he even has a friend that works inside that bank in VI. He lives there in VI. Submit this letter. He has submitted. But you know, this guy can stay for 3 weeks. He will not pick my calls. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know how far. We use 1 month to discuss one thing, because by the time you call him, he will say, okay, send me WhatsApp, send me WhatsApp. He will not read. He will tell you that he did not even read it. You know, the thing that yesterday I cried, and after crying, walai, I had to block him. The funny thing is, my best friend, but I just had to block him. I blocked him yesterday. Let me know that for now, there is nobody. Let me just do as much as my power can carry till. So I just sent someone information to help me do the Google form volunteer stuff so I could put on platforms. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing that. So guys, you can see it's called leadership pain. Welcome to the club. You see some of the impacts, some of the negative things that can happen when you do not select your volunteers properly. This is it. When you have not created a metric to choose your volunteers or to draft their project expectations, this thing can happen. So from the onset, be very clear. See, that way you can avoid this kind of situation, because you were very clear from the onset what you wanted, and you can attract just the people who are passionate about that area. You see, guys, the reason you had the problems you were having this is because you probably begged, some of you begged them to come on the team. Please come and help me. They were not really interested. Or, see, guys, a volunteer has to find something that is attractive in your organization to want to volunteer that time. A volunteer that is passionate, you wouldn't have to beg them to do their work, right? And so that was what I realized with that graphic designer. It was somebody who introduced him to our team. It wasn't me that found him. Usually when I find my volunteers, I'm able to just really do it in this way. I'm able to lay out from the onset what we are doing. Do you want to join or not? Do you see how this speaks to your own passion? And if it's someone I know a little bit, I would tie our work with his former work. And I can tell him how he can use this experience to actually get other things in the future. I usually lay it down. And like I told you guys, I have 5 very committed volunteers for 3 years. They have then graduated and become really serious members of the team. What these guys do in my team, sometimes I used to kneel down and cry and I say, God, thank you. What did I do to deserve this people? That's the truth. That's the truth. They joined as volunteers. One of the guys who is into ICT, I know I've said it before, the work that this guy did to build platforms from scratch for our different programs, online learning management system from scratch, without money, using his data. I don't understand it. I'm like, God, how? I then feel, okay, Glory, you have made very clear your unrelented support for their own visions. I know I told you guys before how I carry their own matter on my head. Some of these guys are trying to apply PhD, how I carry it on my head to help with research, to find opportunities and send to them, advise, write recommendation, read their own, what's that thing called? Review their own write-ups. Apart from doing that, I actually care. I actually call and care about what's going on. One of my team members got a job with an American company, I told you guys. She has refused to still leave our team. And sometimes I call her on the phone to ask how it's going, because moving from a remote work from home to then having to go to work as a mother with many kids. And let me tell you another thing about women who work in this kind of work. For one time, I've been working with this lady. I'll just tell you her name. She's called Victoria for about 2 years. I've never had one mention of, please, ma, I couldn't do it. My boy is sick. Please, ma, I couldn't finish doing it. Oh, I have to rush and get my children from school. I have never heard that excuse. And only one time, which is just about 2 days ago, when she was supposed to do something on our group to just quickly send a message. I asked her to send it. She then said she will get to it quickly, but right now she's on the way to the hospital. Her son is sick. Guys, that was when I remembered that this lady is actually married with about 3 children. I was so impressed by that because she never makes any excuse. And I just look at it, I'm wondering, how did I deserve people like this? And I remembered how I've invested my time in this person's project, how I've even her own small volunteer project she does, how I've given her equipment before, solar equipment. I can actually show you guys one of the things we've given her before. Hold on, I'm going to. She works with children to teach solar. Let me just show you. Products like this, solar panels on how to teach. Some of our students who are solar installers have given us materials, solar panels. One of my students gave me a whole solar system for free, which I didn't need because I have solar in my house. I gave it to her for teaching. So like, guys, be very interested in their lives. That is the secret. So I feel that is why they have given back. The only person who did not give back well, this guy I talked about, is not really, he was just introduced, this guy is going to be interested in this kind of thing. So guys, I'm saying this is how you can get the best from them. You need to set out the metrics from the beginning. And I want most of you guys who are listening to me today to go and do a review. Go and get new volunteers. Go and get new volunteers. Draft your volunteer requirement the way that we have talked about in this program. So make sure that you list out the goals of the program so that volunteers can connect to the ones that matter to them. That's one thing I've done. My work is around climate change, energy management, and economic development. We usually seek for volunteers around the projects that we do under these titles, under these 3 titles. So I set it very clear. I say we're looking for a graphic designer who wants to change the world and combat climate change through his design skills. Now, even if the graphic designer did not know about climate change before, they've heard about it, they
They would want to see, okay, this climate change I've been hearing before. I really want to learn how I can advocate for it. This is a good opportunity. You see, when that person comes on your team, they will do everything it takes to do a good work because they feel that they are contributing to solving climate change. Guys, that is it. That's just it. So this person will give you their all. And then when we are calling for volunteers, we also list out that they're going to get trained on climate advocacy, free trainings and free work experience. So we usually ask that we're looking for climate advocates that can do graphic design, climate advocates that are interested in program management. Do you see how we just clearly write that? So that the people that are coming on your team are already people who are interested in that kind of work. That way, from the onset, we eliminate people who are going to waste your time. So my response to some of you's initiatives, some of you, what you've said is really start afresh again, start afresh again. So I do all those kinds of things for my volunteers. I give out things that they're using for their training. I support if I can for their small programs they're doing in the corner. I support with other types of things. I actually purposefully ask them what's going on so that I can see how to help, right? So I said that the volunteer who got a job in an American company, I still called her like 3 days ago because knowing that this is a mother of 4 children who has to now be making a trip to, I called her to ask how that is going because I know it's difficult. We've been on a pandemic for 2 years. So I just asked her how she's coping with that. But I know she has turned down jobs before because of distance. So I cared. That's just what I'm trying to point out here. She will now actually open up and share something. We just chat like friends. And the mutual respect is there. I respect her for being a hardworking mother who is also young and making impacts in her own space. I always ask her, let me know how to be of help. I always say that to my volunteers. One time, let me tell you another random story. One time, my volunteer couldn't do what he was supposed to do. He actually came in box to say that he didn't have data. Long time ago, he said he didn't have data and if I could help him with data. I've done that many times, helping with data, for my volunteers to feel free to ask me that. I mean, what do you think? It's because I've intentionally built that around them. I purposely look for opportunities where my volunteers can learn skills. So if there are projects happening, I purposely send them there so they can learn it. Guys, you need to articulate what you can do for your volunteers, especially if you're not giving them money. That's what is going to make them stick. They'll feel that they're learning skills that they can use in the future time. So I hope that has been helpful. I am going to also, I'll now call up, do we have someone from American Corner, Keja, to give a feedback on, has this ever happened to you where you noticed a pattern in a volunteer? What did you do? So that we can round up the session. I can see hands raised, American Corner, Keja. I can see hands raised. Please, you can unmute yourself and talk, or you didn't want to say anything again? Benin City, okay, yes. American Corner, Keja.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
I've been blessed with volunteers. Let me use the word blessed. But at times, I think in my cases, they got too comfortable and they got too familiar with me because we do a lot of things together. I don't pay them directly, and at the same time, I pay them. So there's this particular volunteer. She's supposed to be the coordinator of all the volunteers, but she comes late every time. She submits a report late. And when it's time to submit reports and I'm calling her, she won't pick. She won't respond to WhatsApp message, only for her to respond and pick up calls whenever she's ready. And it's been on for a long time. So I decided to cut her off. That's what I did. So our last outreach, I did not involve her in anything. I assigned duties to everyone except her. And she kept calling, Ma, what should I do? Ma, what can I do? I said, don't worry, we are sorted. So I get to the event. I told her that she should pick up the banner and bring it. Our call time was 10 a.m. And as at 10 a.m., she had not gotten to where to pick up the banner. And we're all at the venue. So when she did that, she got there late as usual. She's quick to apologize. And she's like my sounding board because she knows a lot of things about development. But when it comes to implementing and carrying out duties, I don't know, she's laid back. And and I kept talking to her, kept advising her and all. So what I did was to cut her off. We have an event coming up, International Girl Child. She's not involved right now. And she's been asking me, what can I do? What can I do? So I just, so that she can realize that without her, we can do it. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that. And it just boils down to what we have been talking about, isn't it? Most of you, please do a new volunteer drive so that you can implement what we have talked about. You can just, so that you can enjoy easy life like me, right? You can enjoy an easy life like me. What I'm enjoying, I just shared with you guys. There are volunteers who are more than volunteers. And I always tell myself, I want you guys to be like that. I always tell myself that nobody can come through me and be the same. I'm so proud of the 5 people I've raised. Nobody can come through me, and be intentional about them. Give them your all, right? Your all. Because if you select them this carefully, you can avoid stories like this and, you know, situations like this. And so I promise you, even if you, the last lady that talked, even if you bring the person back, they will not change. Did you know? Do you know? They will not change. They're just going to be like that. That's what happened with that guy. They will not change. Their strength is not in teamwork. So you just said that they're really good at other things they do, right? But they're not good at teamwork, or they're not good, they're not result oriented, right? They need to be very, very, with how good, maybe they're just better at that other thing you said. You said they're a good development something. Maybe they're better at drafting your program management and all of your development projects. Please realize what the strengths of your volunteers are. That's another thing. Please understand where their strengths lies. Like I said before, there is a team member. Before I go to American Corner Ikeja, there is a team member who is an ICT guy. Like, that's all he does. He's so good at it. One of my team members. I can't do any, I don't know what I would do without that guy. Like I said, please tell your volunteers, don't allow your volunteers to think that you just want them there. Help them to know that you want them to grow too. I think I said it in this class, where I find opportunities for growth for my volunteers, which will even take them out of Nigeria or out of my work. So I think I mentioned in this class that that's what I think has really made them so, you know, dedicated, because they know that they can leave at any time and I'm not holding them back. I'm actually encouraging them to go, even though I'll be sad, even though I'll say, please find me someone else like you. But they know that I'm not holding them back. I found that the reverse works. It is the reverse that works. They don't want to go. They don't even want to go. Even if they get the job, they still stay. So it's a reverse psychology kind of thing. Give them your all, bring opportunities for job. But I want to tell you, it's not everybody that you can work with like this, but it works for most people. People always go back to where they feel cared for. It's like a magnet, right? So the point I was trying to make is start the evaluation again, right? After this program, do this whole thing again from the beginning. And then look at the old volunteers you have, even, and just be sure that they can continue with you to your next level, your next project. Don't go with the old wineskin. Some people say that. Don't go with the old wineskin, and they all come in with that baggage. They come in with that way that they act. Some of my volunteers were somehow, when they got into my team, let me tell you what one of them did one day before I go to American Corner Ikeja. And I hope that you're trying to draw lessons from what we're saying. I'm purposefully trying to bring out a lot of different examples so that you guys can see the importance of, I think what we're talking about is importance of evaluating your volunteers' performance per time so that you know what to look out for, right? One of my volunteers came in. When he came in, he's a young guy. This was about 3 years ago. He was very brass and very, very rash. I don't know how to explain it. He was a very rash guy. He came in through a program. So a program that my colleague did that tried to place some young people into job shadowing, like an internship. It was meant to just be for 2 weeks. So that program placed them like interns. So that my friend called me and asked me if I could take one person that all he needs to do is to do social media for our team and all of that. I said, okay, why not? This guy comes immediately and notices his attitude from far. Very brass over the phone. Like, he will write me a message on WhatsApp and say, I think he uses hi dear and all of that. You know, very, very, he was not cultured at all. And when I looked at him, I thought to myself, how can I help this guy to become better? He used to sound a certain way on the phone. He was very uncultured. Like, over the phone, it would be like, Yes, so that thing you said I should do. Excuse me. Let me tell you. Let me explain it to you. I'm actually trying to tell him what to do. You're not there. Excuse me. Yes, yes, I will tell you. The way that it should be done is that I've done it before in the program we're doing. They usually do the social media, the way they do the social media. What? I'm actually trying to tell a person how my business process works. Right?
Mic is on. Which one is it?
Somebody's mic is on. Let me see. Someone is talking.
Think of the TV.
Please unmute your mics, guys. Unmute your mics. Sorry, mute your mics. Mute your mics. So he was extremely brass and disrespectful. Guys, I don't know if you know those kinds of people. It's females that will know this, especially males that you bring on the team, and maybe they feel because you're a woman. Every woman who's a leader knows this thing I'm saying, so it's not a strange thing at all. You know, they will try to do it for you. Maybe they're trying to do it for you. Ma, see, I'll tell you, hello, Glory, I'll tell you the way that you should do it. It was extremely distasteful. So what I did first, I drafted a work plan for him for the 2 weeks that he's going to be there. I told myself, let me see what I can make of this person. And I drafted the work plan, and I told him a lot of different things I didn't know. And guys, do you know that I'm happy to tell you today? In fact, I'm almost tempted to call his Facebook page so you can go and check out the person that I groomed out of this guy. Even though he did not know about my industry because he came as a random intern, in fact, he has been invited 2 times to talk about climate change and was paid, a paid speaker. This is a person who was extremely rash, who thinks that, yes, we are talking too loudly. You know, you're a woman, lower your voice, man. The way that this thing, I've done it before, is you schedule the post first. You did not try to explain my work to me. Hello. But if you see the young man that I brought out after of this person, you guys will give me money. You will give me a gift. If you see who he is now, he's one of my best persons now. Best persons. I'm also tempted to show you a WhatsApp message he sent. Very, very cultured. I can't believe it's the same person that was brought to me who acted as if, you know, he was sounding on the phone as if, but you are still a woman. No, you should just, you know, when you have too much loud of a voice, you can actually scare off even your volunteers. So you can do this. You know, that's how he talks. That's how he talks. And I've sent him on a project one time during that early time, and the lady told me that, who is this guy? Glory, I cannot imagine you are working with someone. I said, don't worry, I'm training him. And he did a lot of, you know, he tries to take control. And he did that in that lady's project. And she told me about that. And I told him immediately, I told him off. Anyway, my point is that, I can't remember the point I was trying to make. I'm really sorry. But the point is, please train these guys on your business process. I was trying to answer the person who said that the person was more skilled in one area and was not very good in one area. So eventually, if you train them, you can find out that they can be really useful. But if you have not trained them and they continued in that way, like this guy that worked with me actually changed after about 6 months. He learned how to talk properly, and he's really good now. He's really, really good now. Like for him to be sent on, I even give him projects to plan in his states, you know, because he's now in charge of our programs in his states, right? So if I trained him and he was still acting ras the way he was doing, I would then know, okay, there's a pattern you don't want to learn. He actually pressed me in the first 6 months. I think he took it like a challenge because I told him a lot of things. I told him about how he doesn't know about the subject matter and he's not willing to learn. I told him I don't work like that. And if you're not really serious, I'm going to drop you immediately. So he kind of took it up. He felt that I challenged him to see if he would learn about it or not. And now, without being in the climate or energy sector, he's an expert after 2.5 years. So realize the strength of your volunteers and leverage that. So if that volunteer of yours is very good at drafting developmental project plans, use her for that, please. Do not use them for implementation. That's what I did. That's what I did. So use them for what they're strong at. And guys, I have to tell you the truth. Please do not exploit your volunteers. Because they're there as volunteers, you then give them all the tasks. You then tell them to do everything. Draft the program manager, come out for the implementation, draft the job listing, identify the community problem, come out for the implementation. No, please, use them for just what they're very good at, you will be able to benefit more from them that way. I hope that my rant has been helpful. American Corner Ikeja, sorry for the delay. Please share your experience with us and what you did.
My name is Olami Kwasi. So I was recommended by where I did my internship to another NGO organization. Is a film festival. So I was recommended unofficially to the person. So the person did not actually know the strength of what I can do. So I was there to be a festival curator assistant. So on the first day of the opening, so we did branding, management, streaming of posters and all that. So I think the artistic director of that festival was now trying to do separation because he has someone that actually work as part of his team, and me, I'm a volunteer. So that's it was not working. So I have to give a report on the very first day for the person that recommended me for him. So it keeps going on because it's a week program. It keeps going on and on. And me personally, I'm more like a reserved person. I don't quickly complain. So as on the wrap-up day, do you know what I did? I was supposed to be the face of the brand for the front desk for the wrap-up. I proposed it, since you can't appreciate me because someone recommended me for you unofficially to be a volunteer, and you don't know my strengths, you don't know the qualification I have. So you think you can just talk to me anyhow and just use your topic of your tongue. You can't read me down. So on the wrap-up day, I purposely came late. Yeah, I purposely claim, no, there is a reason. If I give you the real scenario, you actually tell me to do that. Because I think volunteers in Nigeria, people just think they can just use volunteers anyhow the way they like. They don't know, because I'm actually a pro volunteer, and I'm also UNP volunteer. So you can't use me anyhow. I always tell them, I always challenge them about that. Yeah.
Interesting.
On the wrap-up day, I came late. I came late purposely. So I now came in the evening time. I want to see how you will do that customer service on that front desk without me. On that day, he was shocked. I came late that day. He couldn't face me because the assistant director know what he did in his mind. You can't say because you are older than me, now want to use their opportunity to talk to me anyhow or overuse me as a volunteer.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's the cost of your message you are trying to share with us that sometimes
I'm trying to share my experience
as a volunteer? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I picked out something from what you said that I think those planning volunteer programs should be aware of. Please use volunteers for their specific skills. For some of you here who are planning programs, it always brings about a clash to have two people who can do the same thing in an organization. So it was possible that that organization did not really need your skill because they had somebody who was skilled in that area, right? So they did not really need your skill like that. That was why they did not know how to harness it. Yeah, so I think that was wrong on their own part. I'm not sure it was also excellent on your own part to react the way that you did, but that's in the past now, right? So please, I have a similar scenario where I brought in a person who is skilled in software development. Then I brought in another lady who is good in graphics, but she's very good as well on maps, how to create maps, and also how to also do software development. But I was very clear when she joined the team that I know that she was doing software development, and I know I had a guy who was always in the team before. I was very careful because there can easily be a clash between the two. right? So the lady who is doing software development was now focusing on program communication graphics. Even though I know she can do software and she can also do ICT, but we already have a main ICT person. So there was never a clash. As a project leader, please be careful to differentiate between roles from your volunteers. Make sure no one is doing the same thing. There will be a hierarchy clash. It's natural. It happens with animals too. So that's what I'm going to say about that. But thank you for sharing that with us. I'll call up Foluke. Please, you have only 1 minute. No long talk, guys, because we have only a few minutes and we've not gone over our talk today. So, but I hope you're all learning a lot. Please, if you're learning something, I want you to type on the chat box. I'm really learning this. I'm learning how to select my volunteers. I'm learning, this is what I'm going to do after this course. I'm going to go back and try to strategize. I want to see that on the chat box. Write it on the chat box, what you're going to do differently. If not, we've not talked today. What are you going to do differently from all of the feedback we're hearing from the participants? Write on the chat box for me. Those on the American Spaces, please send it to the admin how you have been sending it before. We want to take note of that. We want to also be able to also fine-tune your learnings and what you're doing. So write on the chat box for me, what will I do differently so that I attract volunteers that can be useful, not volunteers who are going to give me problems. Your answer is already in the previous things that we did. So I want to see that on the chat box while we take the comment, last comment from Foluke. You have the floor now. Share your story and what happened.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't think it's more about story sharing. I was just interested in pressing further, you know, when you talked about the way you dealt with the volunteer that you had. I think the feedback I got, you know, from you was on the technical, you know, part. I was hoping that, you know, in terms of the soft skills that you needed to acquire, that you would have shared, you know, with us how you dealt with that. Because personally, as somebody who makes use of volunteer, I don't know if it's a generational shift. I found that sometimes the attitude to work for people of my generation, I don't see it as much in. I've worked, you know, sometimes 2 a.m. I'm doing my, I wouldn't feel that somebody is using me. But I hear that now, you know, people feel that they are using. I think volunteerism is just about people, you know, adding value to a process. But sometimes the thoughts do not align. So that's what I was just hoping, you know, you will share, because it's frustrating, you know, working with somebody who will think, okay, I'm being used if they are putting some additional effort. So how did you deal, you know, in terms of soft skill? The language communication for me is also a problem, you know, the way, you know, people, you know, talk without, you know, courtesy. I sometimes find that, you know, challenging. So I was hoping you will, you know, say specifically in your own space, you know, how you dealt with somebody who could not communicate properly or who was disrespectful in their use of language. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for asking that. That's very interesting. It also boils down to the fact that I talked about selecting how you chose them in the first place. Choosing them properly and setting those expectations earlier on is the best strategy. In this case, somebody was introduced to me, and so there was no, I didn't have that opportunity to do that initially, right? So the specific thing I did is I did allow this person to work with my team, to be mentored by one of our oldest colleagues who has done program manager for the entire organization now, right? The same one I usually send out to talk to others. So this Raz, the person I said was Raz, I allowed them, you know, I allowed him work together. In fact, he actually had to go visit this person physically in his state, since they are very close, their state. But these volunteers manage different states, are close by, and he just talked with him. He didn't specifically tell him, oh, you are Raz, oh, you're this. No. He just told him our business process and how we work, right? And then being on that team and seeing what the culture is, I think that's what changed him. I achieved change with this person in less than 4 months, right? So I did not send him to a specific training, no. I just allowed him to experience how we work. You can't be in our team, which I believe is an excellent team, I will actually say that proudly, and not change. So exposing him to the culture that we had was helpful. Him being in that culture and seeing how he cannot really lag, and me personally challenging him as a person and actually mentoring him, asking him his goals in life. I think that brought about the change that we wanted in less than 4 months. And like I said, he has been the best. He's not one of our best and doing really a good job. And he's a very motivated type of guy, always trying to do a good work. He's always trying to show that he can, do a good job. So that's what happened in that one. Also, what you said about people feeling they are being used is so true. So to just avoid all of that, make sure you set your expectations from the beginning so that you bring in people to your team that want to do that stuff. Right, thank you. So Oshobo Window, I'll have to take your comments at the end. Unfortunately, we have to shoot and continue because of time. So moving on with our course, thank you all for sharing. I want to see if there's things on the chat box. That's very good. Yes, thank you so much for all of that. Really good. Let's kick on. Then the next thing you must think about when taking feedback, we've spent a lot of time talking about volunteer feedback, is that you have to evaluate the volunteers by clients. Evaluation of the volunteers' services by clients. If you have volunteers that works with specific people, maybe you have assigned your volunteers to work with specific people on your program, you have to get a feedback from those people that they worked with and see if that has been positive or how you can help them be better, right? So wait, let me see. The feedback that you can get from this. Uh-oh, that was a mistake. So the feedback that you can get from this is that you will get ways to improve your program or how your volunteers are working with the people, the beneficiaries. It could be the widows or the women, right? So if you have a volunteer who you have sent to get feedback from a group of widows, for instance, in my program, I worked with widows. So imagine that I told you guys that I sent a copper, right? To go and get some feedback from me before I then traveled physically. Right, so imagine that I went to this, that I got to the States and the widows told me, there was a person you sent to, he was very, very insultive. He was actually very disrespectful to Mama Taye. Mama Taye is the president. And we are so surprised that the way he talked to him, because Mama Taye cannot produce the survey that we did, right? Now that's the feedback that you can take note of, right? Then you need to observe if there is a pattern with this person, with how they relate with your constituents, with your beneficiaries. If there is a constant complaint or there's a pattern, you need to either train the person on how to deliver community organizing for action, how to work with beneficiaries, public relations. Just find those programs and let them take those courses. Some of them are paid. There are a lot of courses that are for free that you can organize for your volunteers. That's one advice I'll give you guys. You need to create a Google page. Create a Google, a Google document page where you can just input the links of 4 specific courses that can help your volunteers so that when they're coming on board, you quickly send them to take the course. One of them could, those courses have to do with around your area, subject matter area of impact, where you work, right? For those that are working with HIV/AIDS, for those working with adolescent girls, you have to do that so that they just take this course when they come. But generally, all of your volunteers must take one course from you on how to manage people, community organizing for action. That free course we did in the beginning, please go and put it in a Google page and show this to your volunteers. This is one thing again that I'm saying, which is not even on the slide. So it's very important so that when they come on, they will quickly learn how your culture works, right? So that's very important. And you have to evaluate the volunteer by program staff. But this one is if you do have full-time staffs that work at your organization. Because I know that some of you don't have staff. Many people here are young and you guys are mostly working with volunteers. So you have to evaluate them by staff. Like you have to ask people what they think, right, about this volunteer. So that when they give you the feedback, you will then use it to either advise this volunteer or see if you let them go after you've noticed that there is a pattern. Before you're letting anyone go, you have to notice and conclude that they cannot change, right? And that you have implemented the things that you think are important, but they did not change. So the next thing that I'll think about, that we'll talk about, and I will just minimize this so that I can see it properly. Evaluation of monetary contribution, right? Compare the budget outlay for multiplied by fair hourly compensation for their time. So good, this is for projects where you are going to pay your volunteers, right? For these kinds of projects, please pay them according to the time that they have contributed, according to the hour that they have worked. Make sure you don't just give them money just because, just take, we have this amount of money, take. No. And make sure that everything is specific, including the amount of hours you want them to work. Our volunteers on our program work 5 hours per week on our virtual program. Work 5 hours per week because our program is virtual and their job is just around really managing the program. Each one has a specific role they play for. The fellows, they have specific role they play on Fridays and Saturdays. They have the ICT guy who has specific role he plays. The graphic lady has specific role she plays. It's not many times she doesn't have any work to do because the flyers are used once a week. And then there is the much work around flyer creation is around the beginning of the program and the end of the program when we make flyers for fellows, certificates and all of that. So, but at least 5 hours a week and they get paid for that. It's calculated in that way for 5 hours and it's a 3-month program. So per 5 hours. So that's what this one's talking about. Moving on, because from 12:30, we'll start taking your questions and those who still have contributions will make their contributions. So you have to develop an evaluation mechanism. I know that somebody asked me that, right? Someone asked that recently. Someone asked that recently, an evaluation mechanism. So someone said, what's the thing that we need to have? What's that thing that I can use to evaluate? Someone asked that last week. So it's actually on our slide. So you have to create the volunteer evaluation form and decide which qualities and behaviors are important for each volunteer job and for the organization as a whole. What this means is that you have to, after you have drafted your volunteer expectation, you must then decide what qualities are important for what the volunteer ought to do. So if a volunteer role involves taking feedback and also doing a beneficiary feedback and asking the beneficiaries what they thought about the program, an important part of their job or their expectation is if they are reporting that feedback timely. If they're reporting that feedback to you timely, if they are taking that feedback without waiting for you to remind them to do it, right? Now, okay, look at that. It's actually here, reliability. Are they reliable? Meaning, can you rely on them to actually do what you've asked them to do? Or will they wait for you to remind them, or they will take a lot of time and then when it's time for reports, they will then come back to you? Are they prompt? And that's just the 2 things I've talked about. Do they have good relationships with your staff? These are the different importance metrics that you can include in your form so that you can tick it when you're evaluating that volunteer. You can tick it after you've asked the staff, after you've asked people around what do you think, and after you've taken your own measurement of the person. Were they prompt? Like in my team of 5 people that I told you about, all of them, I'll give them 100 on reliability. Promptness, I'll give 70%. So they're still struggling. Sometimes then they don't do it in the time, but they will say that they will do it. One of them is still struggling with not informing in advance. So there's never a time when you get 100%. But in fact, I'm happy that I get over 90%, right? So you have to measure them with this metric because someone was asking for a guide. You can use this to draft that's your volunteer evaluation form. Okay. Then we have the next thing that we have on the list is you have to, when ending a volunteer experience, because there's something that young leaders of today do, they just continue chilling with those volunteers. You're a volunteer, you're just a volunteer here. So, you just be here forever, you know, you just continue here. Don't you like what you're doing? Don't do that. You have to make good use of your volunteer's time. And please, you have to know when a volunteer experience has ended. Don't just continue with those people, you know, that you just move them to your next program and you just move them to your next program. That's why clashes come. Some of the clashes that people have shared here is because you just move them and say, don't worry, just wait. We have another program with Ministry of Health. And that's a little bit different from what they worked on before. So because you think, oh, I don't have strength to look for new volunteers. I don't have strength to look for new volunteers, and let them just continue. You are going to have clashes with them in the future because you just told them to just move them to the next program. You did not inquire if they were passionate about that new thing. You did not know if they had more time. Maybe they wanted to do something else, but didn't know how to tell you. So you don't know if they're even passionate about that field or have some time for it. That's why you have clashes. So after a program has ended, you must tell your volunteers that this program has ended. And that, you know, thank you for your time. And that you will let them know if there are other opportunities. You have to end that thing there so that if other opportunities come, you either call for new volunteers who are interested in that field, or you use the same old ones if that is also their field of expertise. If that new project you want to do is in the same area as the first one, or is in the same area as your general objective as a nonprofit. Is that helpful? Because I see that many people just move the volunteers to the next place and they just really don't, it doesn't work out. You have clashes at the end, and you then have people not showing up for work because you did not really inquire if they wanted to be there. You just used your expertise as a CEO or as the owner, just say, Ada, you can get more experience now, just join this one. In fact, this one, it might be funded and we might be able to pay you. And because of that, they just go in there, but that's not even their area of passion. This is very important, guys. So actually, that was not what this place is talking about, but that's actually a very important point. After a volunteer activity has ended, you have to close it properly. This one is talking about having to tell those volunteers to leave the jobs. Like some of you have said here, like 2 of you have said that here. And I was very happy to hear that you were able to be courageous enough to do that, because that's one thing leaders have to do. So if you have noticed that a volunteer job is not working out after you've tried various solutions, like I also talked about, that guy that worked with me. There were 2 people that worked with me I talked about. The first person was not meeting up. I had to let them go after 2 different programs. That's a lot of time. And the second one was actually paid. After 2 different experiences, I had to let them go. Then I also talked about a second type of person who was not cultured, who was not doing well at all. And then after I observed them, I saw that there was a change. So I let them stay. Those are 2 different types of scenarios, 2 different people. After I advised, admonished, coached, mentored, guided, the same things I did for the other person who did not change, but this other one changed. So you have to try all these different scenarios before you let them go, but do not keep a volunteer based on, oh, but they're doing a good work. Oh, but if they leave now, they won't have any other engagement. I don't know how to tell them to go. They're going to think that I'm wicked. As a leader, you have to be strong and do the tough things. Let me tell you, many people who have had to let staff go before also did not like it. So you have to do that. Be very serious and do that. So a volunteer departure should be a mutual decision wherever possible. Interesting. That's a very good point, because there are a lot of volunteers who will keep begging you. They will make it so hard. Then they'll keep begging you. They will insist and be begging. What do you do in that kind of case? And those kind of people, they might then, you know, they are the people who would then go and say a negative thing later about how you didn't give them opportunity or something. But you have to be very careful and just point out to them, how come you cannot let them continue? Point out how their failures have cost the project money or have cost the project a bad feedback, a bad Google review, and somebody left a bad Google review because of what they did. You cannot really delete the Google review. I hope you know that. It will be there forever and ever. Once they've made it on your Google My Business page, everyone will see it. So that is why you make sure you document it so that the person raises noise later that you were wicked or you did not pay them and you let them go, you were unfair, you'll be able to point that out. But never make a decision that is sentimental. Okay? So All volunteers should be asked to fill an exit form. That's very important, regardless of the reason for the volunteer's departure. You might find some challenges in this one. Maybe they won't want to fill it. They'll think that you can have it as a documentation against them later. But you just have to find a way to get them to fill it so that you can continue to have that good relation. Tell them that it will enable you guys to continue to have that good relationship. And so you can continue to write that recommendation for them for other opportunities they have. Okay, that brings us to the end of the volunteer management training. Wow, amazing. I want you guys to give yourself a round of applause. Round of applause anywhere that you are. I want to see hands. Oshobo window, I want to see hands. I can see you guys on my screen, but you're not clapping. Okay, thank you. I want to give hands for everybody. Thank you for coming, for staying true. It has been an amazing session, don't you agree? These last 4 days. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your time. I want you guys to let me know what you're doing, how you're trying to implement what you're learning from this activity, how you're also trying to implement what you have, what you have benefited from this event. So please follow me on social media. I want to drop my LinkedIn link so that you can tell me what you're up to there on the chats. I mean, on the, what's that thing called? Inbox. Please tell me I want you guys to implement what you have learned here and share that with me, okay? So it's time for questions. It's time for questions now. I have just dropped my LinkedIn link on the chat. Please connect with me there. Some of you have already connected. Some people are already writing me. Thank you for that. It's been an amazing 4 days, and I will take your questions now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Glory. It's indeed been an amazing 4 sessions, 4 days of insightful, inspirational, and thought-provoking sessions. So once again, I want to appreciate you. And please, can we all put our hands together for Glory? Delectable Glory. Thank you so much. Now, for the questions, if you have a question, please, can you indicate with show of hands? That's the show of the hand symbol or emoji just indicates. Then from any of these session spaces too, will call us based on. Then from American Center here in VI, if you have a question, please, you can write it down and let me have it. Or if you want to ask her directly, I could just put it through the system so you do that. From the chat box, let me see if we have some questions. Okay, not any I could see. Let's see, just appreciation for what you are doing. Thanks once again, Glory. Okay, now I think I have from Oshogbo. Oshogbo, please, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much. My question is based on instances that were given during the in the course of the training about a volunteer that is not delivering and is remorseful, especially from your own example, Ma. So, and there's a mutual agreement that that volunteer should go. But eventually later the volunteer comes running to you in need of a recommendation. And you know, such the volunteers that are not delivering, you agree with me that they will have a sense, they will have a feeling that they have a right to it. After all, they volunteered for some time. So I want to ask, based on, is it wise to give such a volunteer the recommendation, and denial of such volunteer, is it not seen as wickedness? Please, I need you to throw more light. Thank you.
Please, we have one more. One more question.
Glory, will you want it one after the other, or they should ask all their questions?
Actually, I usually prefer to do it one after the other, so I don't miss out on anything. Yeah. All right. That's a very wise question. Thank you. Sorry, hold on. I want to do something quickly. Okay, thank you for asking that. It's very, very tricky, right? Excuse me. It's actually very tricky to know what to do for such a volunteer. Now, what should happen is you have to think about the time where the volunteer have done well, if you have any time. You have to comment on those specific moments when they have met a goal. But if a volunteer have not really done anything, have actually caused stress or strain to the organization, you should not give them a recommendation, except you want to lie, which I don't advise. I had a colleague who had a similar experience. Let me tell you, she posted about it on social media, about how a volunteer, not even this one is a staff of the company, was let go in the company because he was not meeting his goals and he was not even getting back to say, oh, I cannot do this. And he left, and it was really a bad exit because he caused problem for everyone. And he actually came back for a recommendation, and he was just pressing everyone to give a recommendation. He did it as if it is right. I think that was part of the promise of the organization, that they would give recommendation. So she said that she did not give him a recommendation. She wrote to him instead and mentioned why she would not be able to give a recommendation. You have not really done a good job. What do you want me to recommend you about? What's a good thing I'll write about? Do you want me to actually write to these people about how you have been? Right? So if your volunteer have not done a good job, if your volunteer have actually caused some problems for you, then you should not with good heart write them any recommendation. You are just going to cause problem for the other organization where they're going. Except there have been times when they have expressed good leadership skills that you can comment on, and that is genuine. You can write about that. Yes, thank you.
All right. I'm sure that has answered the question. Then
Yes.
I think we still have some couple of questions. Just a moment, please. I'm trying. Okay.
Is that the second question?
All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. You talked about ending the volunteer experience after the project, but you know, in some certain situation, there is something we call returning talent. You understand? We found out that when a need arises for another project, and we need exact same talent to work with us, and unfortunately, that talent may not actually be available for that particular project, and you see some projects having lapses. So what do you have to say? Because I know of some organizations that instead of relieving their volunteers, they find a way to keep them standby for subsequent projects. They call it returning talent. So what do you have to say in relating to what you just said, the last slide that have to do with ending volunteers experience or something like that? So I just wanted to throw a light. Thank you.
Okay, your question is about what to do if you should let go of volunteers or not, right? And that is it advisable to retain them or not?
Okay, what I'm trying to say is there are some projects that you will need exact same talents to execute those projects. And you find out when you relieve them after the first project, to get them back to do the same project or second project will be difficult. Now, there are some organizations that retain talents, like they don't want them to go because they have projects ahead. But from what you just said, he said it is very important to end the volunteers experience for that particular project or program that is being carried out. So I want to, that's what
it's very clear. It's very clear. Thank you so much. If the project if that next project you're having is also similar to your overall project goal, if it is similar to the skills of those volunteers, please, you can go with them. I think I also mentioned that specifically. But if it's something really a little bit different, where the skills of your current volunteers do not exactly match that new space, you will need you can use them, but you're going to have problems in your project, which I would not advise because this is a volunteer management training. I'm supposed to tell you the correct thing, isn't it? You have to get new ones so that you can have people with fresh skills in that area. People with fresh skills will usually give their best to that opportunity. But if they're in the same space and the same types of skills, by all means, please go ahead and use them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Glory. Yeah, there's one from Nelly. I'm sure if he's listening, I'm sure would have been able to get this. He's asking that, please, I want to find out how I can manage my volunteers and sustain them since my organization is not getting support. So do you want to reemphasize on that? I'm sure you probably have answered this at the course of your teaching.
Yes, I have. How to manage your volunteers if you're not getting funding. Is that what she means by support, I think?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes, so just to reemphasize, and if you have been here in the last 2 days, I'm sure, last 4 days, I'm sure you've heard it. Check and take an inventory of what you can offer the volunteers. What can you do for them? So over the course of today's session, I've also shared what I've been doing for my own volunteers. What can you offer them that you have? Do you have access to organizations? Do you have access to a rich network where you can bring them to come for the programs and meet people there? Do you have access to free courses that you can ask them to take? I even talked about how I paid for a 30,000 Naira Facebook advert course, which I screen recorded the course and I gave it to my volunteers to watch. Now I have a volunteer who's making money from advertising for people. So what can you give volunteers? I did not have money to give my volunteers when I started. For a long time, I told you guys that. So are you able to recommend them for programs? Are you able to write on behalf of the organization as the founder and recommend them for programs? So if you don't have funding, what can you do for the volunteers? What projects are you working on? Please make sure you work on projects that you can do without the funding, and work with volunteers that you have something to offer, any kind of benefits. Make sure you find volunteers who have skills to bring to the table, who are also passionate about that area. And that's how you can have a successful event.
All right. Now quickly, I think I have another one here from Uwidia Ita. He said, how do you manage a volunteer who is very good, older than you, but difficult to push?
Also very similar question that somebody, I think I've addressed it during the course of the training.
Yeah.
Older, very good, and all of that. Please, if your volunteer is not helping you achieve and I want to really understand what you guys mean by very good. Is it because I think it's because I said it in my example that the guy was very good graphic designer, but he was not designing graphics for me. He was not meeting the goals. Do you get what I mean? So even though he was very good, he was not actually doing the work. So it was easy to let go because they have cost the program time. They have made us look incompetent in front of our sponsors. So even if he's very good and older, is he adding any value to your work? Can you take a biro and write down 10 things that they've been able to do to help your program move forward? If you cannot, then you should let them go. If you find out that you're just really begging them most of the time, oh, please now commit to this work now. Please now, it's very important. Our funders are going to be there. I want them to be able to see that we have a team. Please, I don't want to go alone. It's going to look like it's only me. I want us to have a team. Please, now, are you going to come? Okay, tell me that you're going to come. I want you to confirm it with your word. I want you to show commitment by words. Tell me that you're going to be there. If you have to do that all the time, it doesn't make sense. You should let go.
All right, thanks a lot, Glory. Let's quickly go all the way to American Space, Maiduguri, the northeast of Nigeria. Please, can you unmute yourself, Maiduguri, and ask your question, please?
Good afternoon, everyone, and I want to thank our speaker for all these periods we've been receiving contributions of topics from her. It's been very, very beneficial and so nice a time we had with her. Mine is not a question per se, but a kind of a contribution. We're talking about volunteerism, and volunteering is actually goes together with benefits. I don't want to look at it from the point of issue that volunteers come to volunteer because they have the goodies, they have what to offer and what have you. No, we must also not encourage laziness and carelessness from these volunteers as they come. So my contribution is that let's also know that volunteers as they come have benefits. I give an example. One of my participants in my corner here comes as a student to volunteer with me. And throughout the period, the 4 years he spent in the university, where we are located. He has actually come and do some wonderful things. And as he was graduating, he left Maiduguri and was in Abuja. And he came into a particular place where he was meeting somebody who said, do you know how to do it? And he said, yes, I had even volunteered with American Space Maiduguri. And he said, can you make a proof? And he called me. I sent a letter to him, a kind of a recommendation letter, and I can tell you this guy is just wow. So I want us to see from the point of view that volunteerism is not just for any person that just come. Let's be careful to discover that when they're not doing the right thing, like I think our speaker said, let's not waste our time with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you for that.
Maiduguri. Thanks. So I think it's just for us to also understand that there's a synergy. Whenever someone is volunteering to your organization, is helping and you have something to benefit. And most of the time we should understand this, especially with the US government. They value volunteerism a lot. So when you do that, it's also a way for you to learn on the job. And when you're applying for jobs, when you put in the volunteer experience, it's really counts. So most of the time we think we are doing them a favor. They also should understand that they think they are doing us a favor, as in the NGO or the organization, but they should understand that they also have a lot to benefit from you for volunteering. Now, I think maybe we'll take Ikeja as the last one, and we'll round up for today. Ikeja, please go ahead and ask a question. American Corner Ikeja. All right. So in the absence of any other question, I think, okay, Ikeja, I think Ikeja is up. Okay, Ikeja, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Ma, for the profound session. Okay, so my question is, as a volunteer, I work with an organization, and as a project manager, as a volunteer project manager, I was able to design. We were able to design because I'm a team lead for some volunteers. So we're able to design a project for this organization, and we came up with everything that needed to be done for the execution of the project. So at the end, the CEO of the organization asked us to write letter of partnership and sponsorship for organizations to come on board. So as a team lead, I decided to give it out to the members of the team. Okay, I said, if you can be able to do this, kindly do it, because I don't want to be the one, I don't want to be in the forefront or be like, I'm only the one doing it. We are all working together. So this letter of partnership was not, we're not able to get it done at the deadline, but all other things were done. Now, she went ahead to carry out the project, gave the day for the project and did everything. We do not know the money that came in. We don't know the partners that came in. We don't know anything that happened. Just come up with dates for the project. This is this, that, and all of that. And executed the project without giving us a report of what happened, the financial report and all of those things. Now, she now wants to go, she's already planning for another project, and we asked us to go and design another project. Now, when she brought me on board, I told her, ma, if I cannot have the report of the last program, of the last project you had, how it's done, how it went, and everything, I can't execute or I can't design another project for you. So at that point, she flamed up and she became angry. So my question is, how do you manage such founder?
Okay, good. So sorry to cut you short before you finish. Internet locked me out a little bit. So you said you worked with a person who asked you to design a project, but she could not give you a feedback on the other one. Can you just rephrase your question a little bit, just immediately, very shortly? Apologies about that.
All right. I said, how do I manage such founder or such that we designed the project for, and the project was executed, but there was no report, there was no feedback to the project team, how it went, the sponsors that came on board, the finance, the money that came in. So how do you manage such person? And she's requesting us to design another project, but the report of the last one, we've not seen it, because that is going to give us the data to work on, to be able to outsource for other partners and sponsors.
But sorry, she is the owner of the NGO, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are you a volunteer?
I'm a volunteer as a project manager.
Okay, wow, interesting. There's no transparency in this organization, right? And so there's really, I don't understand. There's supposed to be some level of transparency. She's supposed to at least let you know how things have gone and what has happened. If you are working on the project, you and your project team supposed to know what has happened so that you could rightly use the feedback to design the other one. So I do not, you want my advice on what to do. So what to do is that you need to, like we talked about in the past, respectful dialogue. You need to respectfully make your case known, call for a meeting and tell her, but don't do so disrespectfully. Don't do so, I can sense anger in your voice. You know, don't do so, oh yeah, you have to tell her. Remember, this is the owner of the, what I mean is that this is the pioneer of the project. What that means, it's her own dream or passion. But you said you were the one who designed the project as a project manager within that organization. So respectfully call a meeting and say that you would like to see, and that you have observed some things that are going on here which you do not like because you don't think it speaks to the goal of the organization, respectfully. So ask her to tell you what has been going on. Because as it stands, the organization no longer represents your goals. Remember, as a volunteer, you are supposed to align your own goals. So I think you need to discuss with her. That's what I advise, to discuss with her. And then if that lack of transparency continues, and if there's no willingness to be open on what is going on in the NGO, then you can just take a leave if you don't want to continue. I think that you can take your leave. Also, I don't think that the founder of the NGO owes it to you to tell you how money has been spent. She's supposed to be transparent, and he or she is supposed to be transparent and publish an annual report or a project report. That's what we do at our organization. Our team members know what has happened. We have a public report on that project. But answering specific questions, I just don't think I think that she owes it to you to tell you how the project has unfolded, the feedback from the project for you to design yours. But if you're also then asking for specificities about how money has been spent, I think that one is meant for the funder, the person who has brought the money for the project, right? But I think it's really wrong if the woman cannot provide you data or doesn't want to be held accountable for what has happened or for a project that has happened. You should engage in a respectful dialogue and tell her what you want, and then you can make your decision from there. I hope that is helpful.
All right, I think in addition to, from my own perspective, I hope the young man is not also over-expecting from, since that's why I asked the specific question, was the woman the owner of the NGO? If she is, I wouldn't accept a board member, but if not, I think you shouldn't just over-expect, because you may end up having your own NGO tomorrow. And I hope you won't, the people volunteering for you won't come with such demand and expectation. Okay, I don't know, do we have someone else from Ikeja? I see a hand up. Ikeja. All right. Yeah, okay, go on, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So on behalf of American Corner Ikeja, we want to appreciate you for this particular class and training. Indeed, we are on the same page that the class was not much of theory, but much more of practicals and sharing out your own experiences. as far as volunteerism is concerned. We are indeed very grateful, and we appreciate you, the American Corner Management, and all those who have made this particular event and training possible. A big thank you. On behalf of my colleagues, on behalf of attendees here in present, at the American Corner, Ikeja, we have prepared a certificate of appreciation, and we have awarded it to our dear trainer for making this training such a wonderful package, and for us all to actually learn from. So the certificate of appreciation will be forwarded to you, ma'am, by the director of American Corner Ikeja through your email. And once again, we want to thank you, and thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Wow, I can see their hands up. Thank you so much. Thank you for the effort.
They actually took this off me because I was on to round off. I was hoping to ask at least 2 people to just appreciate you on behalf of everyone. Since American Corner Ikeja has done that, can any of the participants online, please, a female to be precise, just put on your video, your camera if possible, and unmute yourself and just appreciate Glory on behalf of all of us.
Thank you.
Anybody ready to do that? Are the ladies shy? All right. Okay, so okay, somebody from Oshogbo, I guess Oshogbo want to do that. Okay, Oshogbo, can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you very much,
right.
Glory. It has been an insightful session. And watch out for what we'll be doing with everything we gleaned from your sessions soon. We'll make you proud. Thank you for all you have done for us.
Thank you. So please, can we all put our hands together for Glory? Put your hands together for her. I wish you could see at least in American Center here, we have over 20 participants live in the hall. So yeah. So on behalf of the US
so
consulates and everyone all over, at least I'm sure we have about 15 American spaces all over the country joining in this workshop. I want to say thank you so much, Glory. We are so grateful. Thank you. And I believe that all that you have impacted us with will not be a waste. And we hope to see better Nigeria, better volunteerism, and greater effective NGOs. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have any parting shots for us as we disconnect for today. If you have anything to say on the final note.
Of course. No, I'm just so honored. Thank you so much for all of the kind words and the surprise for one of the American species. I'm happy that I've been able to impact you. But now moving forward, results is key. Results is very key. That's what I always say. I want you to please let me know what you're doing. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know if LinkedIn DM what you're doing and what you're up to. I want to see how to keep supporting you. I really, really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to Hazy Health Initiative, and thank you to American Consulate Lagos. Thank you to all the American centers that have connected. Thank you for your kind words. And I hope to see you some other time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So now to everyone, thank you for your time, and I'm sure that the time you have invested in this is a worthy one. So please join us on Monday as we go to the next module, and that is needs assessment. And we also have another wonderful facilitator in the house that will be taking us on the next 4 days, Monday, Thursday, for the next 2 weeks on needs assessment. Please be part of us and try to invite your friends. And if you do have an enemy, please do that person a good by inviting him or her. Thank you, and bye-bye to everyone.